federal government has ordered that the increase in tariffs be suspended for 2 weeks, pending investigations into what the Labour Minister, Chris Ngige, has described as conflicting field reports justifying the hike in electricity tariff until the investigation is completed. Well, here in the studio to speak on some of these conflicting views on pertinent matters in the sector is the Editor-in-Chief of Electricity Law Reports, Wale Irokosu. Wale, glad to have you join us. Hello, Wale.
Good morning.
Good, fantastic. Glad to have you join us, Wale Irokosu.
I'm very happy to be here. Thank you.
Good. Welcome. Well, let's start it this way. What do you make of the suspension of the tariffs for 2 weeks at least before any other discussions can be held?
I think it's a step in the right direction. I mean, it's for 2 weeks for them to look at the cost component of the tariff, because I think the unions are questioning the basis for the tariff, that some of the costs are unfounded. I think it's a good step in the right direction. It's just for 2 weeks, so that everybody has confidence that the government is doing the right thing.
Well, you have been watching this sector keenly. And just after that report of, the tariffs being halted, electricity workers in the country said, hike in tariff will not fix the sector. Do you agree with them?
To an extent. The issue is a bit complex. First of all, we need to agree on something. I mean, the tariff was 53 naira. The tariff was 32 naira, but the cost is actually 53. So government was responsible for 22 naira per kilowatt hour. So last year, government spent 560 billion naira on subsidy, and there's a huge drop in government's revenue, about 60%. So government is saying, I can no longer fund this. While the unions are saying, it's a social good, it's a social service, this is the wrong time to increase tariff because things are getting harder because of COVID. And they're also saying that, look, the energy source that this cost is based on is the most expensive energy source, which is gas. That's not the only source of energy, and it's pegged at international price. So why are we paying for it? So both sides have a decent argument, and I just hope that they can come to a resolution on a way forward.
But that's our hope, really. While the organized private sector, Wale, welcomed the fact that the strike by Labour was averted, at the same time, they're asking the government not to go back on the pre-pump price increase and the hike in tariffs. What's your sense of what the organized private sector is saying?
The organized private sector, there's a theoretical divide. They are capitalists, and they need to recover the cost of doing their business. While people in the labor are typically, they are not business owners. They are looking at the cost of living. So there's a big divide. The organized private sector will always favor cost recovery approach to tariff and the inefficiency that is in the subsidy process. I mean, the general public will say there's corruption in it. The organized private sector will say it takes me a while to get my money from government, even though people say I'm taking money that I don't deserve. So the organized private sector will always favor an open market.
Well, you touched on the issue of gas earlier, and gas is indeed a major component for the GENCOs to produce powers. But we have signed deals with Russia firms. We have also signed deals with Siemens, I believe. Do you see any indication that with all these deals that we have signed and, the utilization of our gas, we'll be on our way to fixing the power sector and improving power supply?
I strongly believe it's a step in the right direction. So in the mid-term or long-term, I think that would solve the issue. But in the shortest term, I don't know whether there will be a solution in that regard. I think the Siemens deal is largely dealing with all the system losses that we have in transmission network. Currently, we have an installed generating capacity of about 12,000 megawatt, while the transmission capacity is about 5,300. So there's a lot of system losses. I mean, we all grew up with stories of transformer malfunctioning. So those things are still happening. Even though you generate, you can't will it to the end user, you can't get it to the consumers, and that has to be fixed. And there is no money to fix it. So getting foreigners that has the financial capacity to sort it out, I think is a step in the right direction.
Wale, let me also, let's continue on that aspect. We just had a discussion, about 2 days ago, or about 3 days ago, Adesua, myself and Adesua, with the Honorable Minister, Rotimi Amechi on Transportation. We were discussing, you know, he said that the greatest challenge in this area is that of distribution. Why is this such a seemingly intractable problem that defies solution?
I don't entirely agree with the Honorable Minister, even though I hate to disagree with him. I think transmission is the biggest problem. You have, like I said earlier, you have 12,000 megawatt installed capacity, but your transmission network can only take 5,300. So even if you generate, how would the transmission network take it to the distribution system? That's the first major issue. And I think that's a bigger issue than the distribution problem. The distribution problem is also very big in the sense that a lot of people are unmetered and people feel cheated if they don't know what they are using and they are getting billed for it. So that's also a big issue. And also the distribution companies, I mean, they are expected to put in a lot of money to upgrade the infrastructure, transformer, meter and everything. And it looks like there's no liquidity in the system for them to do that.
Well, then that takes me to another question. It's looking like something just wasn't right with the privatization of electricity or power. You know, is that really the case? What went amiss at the beginning, at the root, and how can this be remedied?
I think for me, if I try to get an answer, I would say the government and everyone involved were targeting privatization as an end. I don't think they focus on efficiency. I think if they had focused on efficiency, it would have been possible for them to give their assets to people that have a lot of experience, even if they are not willing to pay that much for it. I also think the discos as well. I mean, if they had done their due diligence, they would have seen the system losses and they would have asked themselves whether they have the money to upgrade the system. I think the way forward, in my own opinion, is for everybody to come to a round table and reach a compromise. One of the things that I think when you look at America and some countries, a lot of municipal government, when I say municipal government, I mean local government, state government, they try to step in and assist. In Nigeria, everyone focuses on the federal government, the discos and the gencos. We are not asking ourselves, what are the state and local governments doing? What are they capable of doing? And in that regard, I mean, we have to commend the Lagos state government. I'm aware that they have about 5 independent power plants that they are using to power public utilities. They have one in Lekki, they have one in Marina, they have one in Akute, they have one in Alausa, they have one in Ikeja that they use to power the court and the general hospital. And they've also enacted a law that seems to deal with the issue of power generation, theft, and violence against distribution officials. I think the state and the local government can do more. To what extent, I don't know, but I think all hands has to be on deck. That's, I think, is the way forward.
Mm. And let's talk about the role of meters, metering, the metering gap that we have. Why is it impossible to meter everyone at the moment? And you said all hands need to be on deck. Let's also bring in the role of the consumers here, because sometimes, you know, even these power providers say the theft of power you talked about, the consumers are not totally innocent. You know, they also circumvent the systems and, you know, we are at a loss. What exactly is the problem here?
I totally align with your thought. I think metering is a big problem. I mean, if you know what you use, you'll be willing to pay. I think a lot of people don't feel there's a trust deficit. In terms of metering, I think it's a problem of the discos. I think the law is very clear. I think Section 80, I think it is, of the Electricity Power Reform Act says they have to meter. It's their responsibility. So they haven't metered. So let's make a mistake about it. It's the fault of the disco. They should meter people so that they can pay for what they use. But the discos too will turn back and say we cannot recover the cost of getting the power across to the people because we're not getting cost-reflective tariff. So that's what they've been saying. But without a doubt, I align myself with you. I think metering is will be a big way to go in solving the issue. I remember when I was a student, I mean, you put off your light because you are using a prepaid meter. So people will also be a bit more economical with the use of power when they know that your meter is reading. I think metering will go a long way in solving the issue.
Now, well, this is like changing the goalpost, you know, when the game has suddenly started. You're now saying, I'm talking about the discos, you're now saying there's no cost reflexive tariffs. I'm just wondering, shouldn't all these things have been ironed out before they were giving the go-ahead, you know, before the privatization? I mean, all these things should have been ironed out. It's like putting the cart before the horse. I don't know whether you see it the way I say it.
I totally see it the way you see it because, I mean, I don't want to go as far as saying the privatization process was a failure. But the fact of the matter is, even federal government is not happy. I mean, I was reading Alhaji Lai Mohammed's statement last week, calling out the discos and saying they were incompetent. So obviously, federal government is not happy about the privatization process. The discos too are not happy. They said the asset you gave me doesn't reflect what you said was there. It's worse than what I meant it, and I'm not getting the tariff that you promised me. Also, the consumers are not happy. You are asking me to pay more for less. So everybody is not happy. If we look at it from that angle, I think the privatization process or program has to be looked at again. I don't know whether reversing it is the way to go because that might just create a crisis out of a problem or even a disaster out of a problem. So
isn't that why Labour then is angling and saying that you are simply passing the burden. You are simply suffering the consumers. They should not be suffering this. Isn't it why the Labour is crying out? Why should we bear the burden of things not well done, inefficiency, ineffectiveness, or you not having the knowledge ab initio of what you were inheriting and then working with it?
So there's no silver bullet in this problem. You know, you have a problem, and the problem is money. Federal government is saying, I don't have the money anymore. The discos is saying, I don't have the money. And the consumers are saying, I can't pay for what I haven't used. So we have to find a way out of this lockdown. And I think one of the solutions is bringing foreigners in. Siemens wants to invest billions of euros in the sector. So I think we might have a better system somewhere down the line, maybe 6 months, 1 year, 2 years' time. But this is where we find ourselves. And my thinking is, I mean, the simple answer is, okay, reverse the privatization process, take it from the disco and give it to who? You know, so those are some of the issues.
Okay. All right. Stay with us. We'll take a quick break. When we return, we'd like to talk about